is the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I am your host, as always, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. How is it going today, everybody? What a freaking crazy day, week, season it's been in the NFL. So I'm recording this Saturday morning, and the latest news is, of course, that Cam Newton, he just tested positive for COVID, and he's going to miss tomorrow's game against Kansas City, which, I mean, as a Patriots fan, that definitely worries me. Is it going to be the Jared Stidham show? I guess we'll have to find out. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a wild week. We're here today to help you with some of your Thrive prop plays. Of course, you can go to Thrive Fantasy, download the app, and make sure that when you do your first deposit of $20 or more, up to $50, the Thrive Fantasy will match that. Of course, you can always deposit more, but they will match up to $50 of that first deposit. So go now, download the Thrive Fantasy app, and you guys can follow along. And look, I mean, the reason we like to do this is not just because we want to talk about props. This is real actionable information that you can use when you're setting your lineups weekly for your start sits. So without further ado, I'm going to start with, let's be positive today. We're going to be positive. I'm going to start with one that I like the over on. So Tyler Lockett at Miami, his prop this week, go to the NFL contest and look for the Sunday Rush Week 4 contest, and that's how you're going to be able to follow along. Tyler Lockett is at 78.5 reception yards going at Miami. So this is one, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to hammer the over on, because Tyler Lockett, first of all, he's been going ham. Just last week alone, he had 3 touchdowns for 100 yards. And look, the reality right now is that Russ is cooking. And I get Tyler Lockett's an athlete, but if he keeps eating as much as Russ is cooking, he's probably going to gain a little bit of weight throughout the season. But that's a terrible joke. Anyways, I'm hammering the over on this one. Look, the reality is I think this is going to be a shootout of a game. Miami is allowing the 26th worst yards against other teams, 265 yards passing yards per game. And of course, Seattle is dead last, allowing upwards of 430 yards on average per game. In week 1, Lockett had 92 reception yards. In week 2, against New England, which we know is, it's a challenging matchup against New England, he had 67. And in week 3 last week against Dallas, he put up 100 passing yards or reception yards. So I like the over 78.5 yards on Tyler Lockett this week. All right, let's crash back down to reality, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Brady this week versus the LA Chargers. The prop is 262.5 pass yards. So I'm going to take the under on this one. Right now, the Chargers are only allowing 227 pass yards per game. Chris Godwin is out, which we know he was out last week, but it always is worrisome. In week 1, Brady only put up 239 yards. In week 2, 217. And it's a bit of a trap because last week he put up 297 yards. I'm not confident that they're going to be able to get it done through the air this week. And I'm taking the under on Tom Brady. All right. Another player, one of my favorites, but I just don't trust it right now. So Deshaun Watson versus Minnesota. The prop is 2.5 passing touchdowns. Now, at first glance, you'd think, okay, Minnesota, they've not been very good this season at all, frankly. And they've pretty much been sieves. But the prop of 2.5 passing touchdowns, I'm still going to take the under on that because Minnesota's only allowing on average 3 total touchdowns per game, and only about half of those are actually reception touchdowns. So my thought on this is that it's probably going to be a bit of a more of a balanced game. We're not really sure about Will Fuller. He jumped up on the injury report this week, which is always worrisome. Now it's looking like he's going to play, but is there a chance he could tweak it again when he's playing the game tomorrow? Absolutely. I think that if Deshaun's going to score, maybe he's going to need to do it on the ground with his running. Maybe DJ is actually going to get involved. So 2.5 passing touchdowns, that's high. I mean, we know anytime a prop is essentially you need to score 3 passing touchdowns. I'm going to take the under probably more often than not, regardless of the player. This is a situation where I think that it's probably pretty safe to go with the under. And hey, look, it's not sexy, right? People don't want to bet on the under because we like high scoring games. And look, the NFL of 2020 is a high scoring game, but I'm going to go under on Deshaun Watson, 2.5 passing touchdowns. Book it. We're going to go a little bit of positivity here. All right. San Francisco has been, I would say, the most devastated team in terms of injuries this season. But George Kittle is coming back this week against Philadelphia. It's a pretty positive matchup. With Philly is not that strong against the tight end position. And the prop is 60.5 reception yards. I think that George Kittle is going to come back. And look, Jimmy G is not in the game. It's going to be Nick Mullins. I think that he's going to rely on, frankly, one of his best pass catchers. Debo's also back this week, which I love. But we also know that Debo will often get involved more so in kind of like the gimmick type game. They'll involve more in the run game. So I like George Kittle over on the 60.5 reception yards. So this was one actually that I was talking about with Flex Matt earlier, and he actually likes the under on this one. So we're a little bit split, but I still think that against Philadelphia, look, Philly's not a good team. They're probably going to, they're also pretty devastated in terms of injuries, especially on the wide receiver core. Deshaun Jackson is out. Jalen Reagor, of course, a stud rookie wide receiver who we love. He's out. And look at Greg Ward. I don't know. I think that they're going to be able to get it done in the air against Philly. Philly's probably going to be wanting to run the ball and slow it down, but I think George Kittle's going to be able to put up these points. He's had a disappointing start to the season so far. I mean, week 1 against Arizona. Last year, Arizona was a bit of a sieve against tight ends. Not so much this year, but look, I'm taking the over. Flex Matt, he's taking the under, 60.5 reception yards. Split the difference. Let's go, George Kittle. Let's get it done. Allen Robinson versus Indy. That was quick, hey? The Nick Foles regime is now in Chicago. And look, last week, Allen Robinson was peppered with targets. He had 13 targets, 10 receptions, but that was against Atlanta. We just talked about Seattle being the worst in terms of passing yards allowed. Atlanta was number 2, just behind Seattle. So I take what it is, take the 13 targets, 10 receptions with a grain of salt. This week, he's going up against Indianapolis. The prop is 5.5 receptions. I think this is a trap game. Indy is the top pass defense the first 3 weeks of the season, allowing a measly 15.7 pass completions per game. That's number 1 in the league. They're allowing 132 passing yards. Look, I know that they haven't faced the stiffest competition, but I think that's something to be worried about. I expect that Xavier Rhodes, who's one of the top corners in the league, is going to be matching up against Allen Robinson. I don't know if he'll necessarily shadow the entire time, but it's still going to be a challenging matchup. I'm going to take the under on Allen Robinson getting 5.5 receptions. Again, I know it's unsexy. I know that he he blew up last week. So it's going to be a big letdown game. I'm saying be cautious. Allen Robinson, 5.5 receptions. I'm taking the under. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that Flex Matt wanted to take the over. He's a little bit more bullish on this game. I'm not. Look, we know how Indy likes to win games as well, right? They're going to slow it down. They're going to win with their defense. They're going to win with their running game. So they're going to try to limit those big plays, and those big plays come from Allen Robinson. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So those are my favorite Thrive 5 flex plays of the week. Tom Brady, I'm going under 262.5 pass yards. Deshaun Watson, I'm going under 2.5 pass TDs. Allen Robinson, I'm going under 5.5 receptions. George Kittle, I'm going over 60.5 reception yards. And Tyler Lockett, I'm going over 78.5 reception yards because Russ is going to cook, Lockett's going to eat, and those are my favorite Thrive 5 plays of the week. Now, if you like what you listen to, please follow us on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. And of course, go to our podcast app. Pretty much anywhere you can find us. Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Subscribe. support your boys. Also, if you like the general logos of the Flex Network, you can go click below. And we actually have Flex Network gear now. So go get yourself a shirt, go get yourself a hat, go get yourself some freaking socks. Those socks are pretty badass. So go check it out. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you like what you're listening to, rate us 5 stars. So I am Flex Shane for Flex Matt, and Season Long says we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network.